Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, where we take up important articles of the day from the newspaper and discuss them in detail as per the demands of Civil Services exam. Articles covered today are displayed on your screen and their notes in PDF and Word format are provided in the description box down below. Without further ado, let us begin.
Now starting off with the first article of the day, which appeared on page 6 of today's Hindu newspaper. In this article, the Karnataka Chief Minister, he has written to the Union government urging to bring changes to the manual for drought management of the year 2016. And this manual, it highlights parameters for declaration of drought by different states. And the Karnataka Chief Minister, he said that it was necessary to have different parameters in order to declare drought in 14 agroclimatic zones in state of Karnataka. And this situation is also important because of the erratic weather conditions that are propelled by climate change. Hence, this topic is important from GS Paper 3 perspective, which highlights disasters and disaster management. And drought is a notified disaster under the Union government norms. Further, this topic is also important from mains perspective, which can be seen from this PYQ of the year 2016 on frequency of urban floods, which are caused by climate change events. Further, it is also important from prelims point of view, because drought prone area program, it was asked in 2014 prelims. Hence, in the scope of our today's discussion, we will first take a look at about what are droughts. Then, we will discuss classification of droughts in the country, followed by causes which lead to droughts in our country. Then, we will discuss challenges that are associated with declaring of drought in the country. In the end, we will take a look at a way forward so in order to improve disaster management of droughts in our country. Hence, let us start our today's discussion by discussing what is drought. Now, a drought event, it is characterized by a lack of precipitation, and this lack of precipitation is for a protracted period of time, and this lack of precipitation, it further leads to water shortage. While droughts, they occur naturally. However, human activities such as water use and management, they can exacerbate dry conditions, leading eventually to droughts. Now, let us look at different stats regarding droughts in India. Now, over 68% of total area of our country is vulnerable to droughts. Further, chronically drought-prone areas, they constitute about 33% of total area of the country. And these areas, they receive rainfall less than 750 mm in the entire year. Further, about 35% of the area in our country, it is classified as drought-prone area. And this area, it receives rainfall between 750 mm to 1125 mm in the entire year. Now, after independence, India witnessed three major drought years. It was 1972, 1987 and the year of 2002. Further, nearly two-thirds of the total area in a country, they were affected by droughts during the year of 2020 to 2022. Now a drought, it is classified into three different categories. The first is a meteorological drought, and this kind of a drought is defined as deficiency of precipitation. And this deficiency is from expected or normal levels over an extended period of time. Further, there are three different categories of such a drought. First, when the rainfall deficit is less than 25%, it is categorized as a drought. Whereas, if the rainfall deficit is between 25 to 50%, it is categorized as a moderate drought. Whereas, if the rainfall deficit exceeds 50%, it is categorized as a severe meteorological drought. Now, the second category is that of hydrological drought. It is defined as deficiencies in surface or subsurface water supplies which leads to lack of water for normal and specific needs. And such conditions arise even in times of average precipitation, especially when increased use of water, it diminishes our water reserves. Whereas the third category, it is termed as agricultural drought, which is usually triggered by meteorological or hydrological droughts. And these occur when the soil moisture or the rainfall are inadequate during a crop growing season. And this causes an extreme cross stress and wilting of crops. Now, after we have done with what are droughts and their classification, let us discuss causes for recurring droughts in India. Now, in spite of high average annual rainfall in India of around 1150 millimeters per year, there are considerable seasonal and regional variation in amount of rainfall in the country. First is that the southwest monsoon season has a very short window and the duration of this season is less than 100 days. Now, in this short season, the country receives about 73% of its total annual rainfall. Further, there are uneven distribution of rainfall over different parts of the country. For example, some parts of the country they bear high risk of severe rain shortfalls, whereas other areas they tend to receive excessive rainfall. Further, total of 33% cropped areas in the country, they receive an average of less than 750 millimeters of rainfall every year. And this, it heightens the susceptibility of this region to severe drought conditions. The second cause for droughts in the country is that there have been overexploitation of groundwater and suboptimum conservation of surface water in our country. And this, it leads to inadequate water availability for irrigation purposes. Further, traditional water harvesting systems, they have been largely abandoned. And this leads to increased risk of droughts in the country. Further, the irrigation coverage of our country is limited and there are poor irrigation techniques in the country. Now, total of less than 50% of coverage area in our country is irrigated, and this it exacerbates the impact of drought on account of complete dependence of agriculture on natural rainfall, and hence India's farm efficiency in present terms is also amongst lowest in the world. And this limited irrigation coverage, it further exacerbates the impact of drought in our country. Now, after we have discussed the causes for droughts in India, let us discuss challenges in drought management in the next slide. The first challenge in drought management in the country, it pertains to reactive and relief-centric approach of drought management. As lack of integrated approach in emphasizing prevention, mitigation and preparedness, it increases the loss of crop area to droughts in our country. Further, there have been issues related to assessment and early warning systems. And this is because many states in India, they still continue to rely on traditional practices such as eye estimation and crop cutting experiments to assess the impact of droughts in our country. And these estimates, they are generally available by the month of December for Kharif crops as well as in the month of March for Rabi crops. Thereby, it causes significant delays in drought estimation in our country. Further, there has been lack of proper and reliable data on water storage in our country. As data, it currently exists in silos, which have very little horizontal and vertical data sharing across the entire value chain. Further, drought differs from other natural hazards such as cyclones, floods, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions in many different areas. First is that drought, it has no universally accepted definitions that encapsulates the entire complex nature of drought management. Further, it is difficult to determine the beginning and end of a drought episode because of slow onset, silent spread, and gradual withdrawal of drought conditions. Additionally, there are no indicator or index which can precisely forecast the advent and severity of a drought event, nor it is able to project its possible impacts. Further, the spatial expense of drought is far greater than any other natural calamity, which makes effective response for a drought condition highly challenging. Further, impacts of drought, they are generally non-structural and difficult to quantify. For example, the damage to ecology and the disruption of socio-economic fabric of communities as well as long-term effects of malnutrition on health and morbidity, they are difficult to determine. Hence, the quantification of drought, it is especially difficult. Now, after we have discussed the challenges to droughts in India, now let us deal with drought declaration in the country. Now, drought declaration, it signifies the beginning of government's response to conditions which represent a drought situation. The drought manual of the year 2016, it recommended developing of a matrix for drought which should include 5 categories of indexes such as rainfall, vegetation, water, crop and others. In these 5 indices, rainfall is considered to be the most important indicator and therefore related meteorological data, it should be mandatorily considered in making any assessment of drought, whereas other indicators, they should be evaluated in conjunction with rainfall related data sets, and this should be done in order to assess the impact of rainfall deficiency in a particular area. Now, after we have discussed the parameters which are used for drought declaration in the country, let us take a look at suggestive way forward in order to improve the management of drought situation in our country. The first suggestion is related to adoption of an integrated management approach which should emphasize on prevention, mitigation, preparedness and adaptation strategy. Further, there is a need to adapt an approach of co-development, which should include development of early drought warning systems as well as climate risk management approach for tools and guidances. Further, the focus, it should be on proper communication of climate information. As proper communication of such information, it will help in timely declaration of droughts in the country. Further, there is an inherent need to popularize the adaptation strategies, which should include measures for crop diversification as well as micro irrigation, as this will reduce the requirement of water in our country, hence making the areas less susceptible to drought-like conditions. Further, there is a need to improve coordination, which can be enabled by capacity building at the local level. As at the lowest level in our country, they are the first responders to a drought event, and their enhanced capacity, it will help improve the management of droughts in the country. Hence, with an integrated management approach, co-development of early warning and climate risk management approaches, improving communication on climate information, adaptation of strategies like diversification, as well as improved coordination will help effectively manage droughts in our country. This was all for today's discussion on droughts in India. Moving on to the second article of the day, which appeared on page 2 of today's Hindu newspaper. Now, ahead of the 77th Independence Day, which will be on 15th of August, the Delhi police and other security agencies, they are on high alert and are using more than 15 AI-based cameras which are equipped with features like facial recognition and more than 1000 CCTV cameras to keep an eye on the Independence Day venue, that is the Red Fort. Also, various anti-drone systems and kite catchers, they have been deployed especially near this Red Fort area. Hence, this article highlights that security agencies, they are increasingly getting reliant on use of technology for law enforcement purposes. This topic is also important from GS Paper 3 perspective, as it highlights the challenges to internal security through use of communication network and challenges with related to role of media and social networking sites in internal security matters. Further, similar topics have been asked in mains before. As you can see, from this PYQ of the year 2021, a question appeared on multidimensional challenges which are posed by external state and non-state actors, and also measures that are taken in order to combat these threats. Further, a question appeared in 2019 on the Cyberdome project of state of Kerala. Hence, in the scope of today's discussion, we will first cover technologies that are used by law enforcement agencies for policing purposes. Following which, we will discuss the significance of such technologies on ensuring an effective law enforcement in the country. Further, we will also discuss challenges that extensive use of such technology Further, we will also discuss challenges in extensive use of such technologies. Then, our discussion will be concluded by a suggestive way ahead that will highlight measures that can be undertaken in order to make use of such technologies more effective. Hence, let us start off our today's discussion by discussing technologies that are used by law enforcement agencies in India. Now, first, let us take an overview of the types of technologies that are used in the country. First is the use of drones and CCTV cameras to monitor the flow of people in public areas. Further, police also uses body-worn cameras, which enhances the transparency in the policing mechanism in the country. Further, to improve the traffic system of the country, police uses automatic license plate readers, which help records traffic violation done by a car. Further, police also uses biometrics and fingerprint scanner to identify the culprits, as well as use of brain fingerprinting in investigation purposes. Also, police uses mobile interceptors so as to intercept communications that are detrimental to the security infrastructure of the country, in addition to the use of predictive analytics software, which helps identify deviant behavior from the normal. Now, what is the significance of leveraging technology in policing in the country? Let us take a look in the next slide. The first significance is that technology helps improve the public interface. For example, Punjab Police has a citizen-facing portal called Sanj, which provides online services such as downloading first information reports and searching for stolen vehicles and lost mobiles. Also, technology helps in crime prevention. For example, big data plays a major role which can be used to identify crime patterns and hotspots. Artificial intelligence, on the other hand, can be used to draw correlations between types of crime, time, and location. And the findings then can be used to deploy beat constables for more effective policing, thereby reducing and preventing crime. Also, technology helps in crime detection, as technology can be effectively used to get a digital footprint of a criminal. For example, mobile forensics can be used to retrieve criminal information such as contacts, photos, and text messages. Also, artificial intelligence can be used to match fingerprints, facial images, analyze CCTV footage, and these data can be integrated from multiple sources such as social media, financial institutions, call detailed records, and criminal records, etc. Also, social media is used by law enforcement agencies for awareness generation, which help them to reach out to citizens directly by providing information on traffic jams or how to protect against cybercrimes, dispelling rumors, and countering fake news, etc. The fifth significance of technology and law enforcement is that it helps improve internal efficiency of police departments. Key performance indicators such as time taken to file a charge sheet or types of crime solved, time taken to address complaints helps determine a police officer's performance in a more objective manner. Also, technology helps in real-time integration of 5 pillars of criminal justice system such as police, courts, prosecution, jails, and forensics. Real-time integration between the information technology systems of these 5 pillars help in reducing duplicate data entry and errors and can help significantly increase the efficiency of law enforcement agencies. However, use of such technologies, despite having significance, has several challenges as well. What are these challenges? Let us take a look in the next slide. The first challenge associated with the use of technology in law enforcement is that it leads to breach of privacy. It has been observed that excessive use of technology in criminal investigation has also led to a situation where police gets the personal information which are not relevant for the investigation. Also, another challenge associated with use of technology is that there is an absence of regulation of technology. In absence of laws to regulate and specify the procedure for use of technology, it leads to the discretion of police itself on how these technologies can be used, and hence can lead to their misuse. Also, use of technology is an expensive affair because technology is expensive to procure and maintain. Technology is being updated every day, and with the changing technology, the police departments also needs to upgrade. However, these technologies are also expensive and changing, which leads to huge capital expenditure, which is difficult in times of crunch budgetary requirements. Also, use of technology has led to increased stress on workforce, as there is an inherent amount of stress involved with learning and applying of many advanced technologies. Officers are expected to embrace technology. However, unfortunately, they do not always receive a proper training that is needed to master the technology. Now, as we have understood that use of technology is important for law enforcement, hence there are few suggestions that can be incorporated for furthering the interface between technology and law enforcement. The way ahead suggests that there is a need to address other perennial issues, as technology adoption needs to be corroborated by long pending police reforms, which is needed to address other issues faced by law enforcement agencies, such as lack of accountability, poor representation of women, and shortage of weaponry. Also, there is an immediate need to regulate such technologies. Enactment of personal data protection law as well as DNA fingerprinting law must be expedited in order to bring regulations for safe use of technology and addressing privacy concerns. Also, there is a need for capacity building, as providing proper time for training of officers who are responsible for using these technologies can help bring confidence and thereby reduce stress, and it can also help in improving officers' proficiency in using such technologies. Further, there is a need to build digital trust, as there is a need to imbibe digital ethics, which is a broader framework which includes technology, use of transparent data to create a digital trust in law enforcement and society in a broader context. To conclude, we can say that not only does technology promise to improve police effectiveness and efficiency, to conclude, we can say that not only does technology helps improve police effectiveness and efficiency, it also enhances the professional status and incentivizes legitimacy of police work. Now moving on to the third article of the day, which appeared on page 8 of today's Hindu newspaper. According to this article, the government enacted a chief election commissioner and other election commissioners appointment, condition of service and terms of office bill of the year 2023. And in this bill, the government has proposed of a 3-member selection panel for the appointment of members to the Election Commission of India. Now, Election Commission of India, it is a non-partisan and independent commission which ensures the robustness of electoral democracy in India. And the Election Commission of India, it has played a seminal role in the periodic conduct of elections, which have not only seen greater participation from the electorate, but also because this process is largely free, fair, and convenient in nature. Hence, in order to make the appointment process for members of the Election Commission to be fair, the Supreme Court recently it passed a judgment that envisaged an independent selection committee which must also include a Chief Justice of India. However, as per this article, the move by the government it goes against the Supreme Court judgment. Now this topic is important from GS paper 2 perspective as it highlights appointment to various constitutional posts and Election Commission of India. It is a constitutional body, hence it is relevant from GS paper 2 perspective. Further, questions on Election Commission of India, it occurred in mains of the year of 2017. Whereas in the prelims of the year 2017, a question directly appeared on Election Commission and its number of members. Hence, in the scope of today's discussion, we will discuss the key features of Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners, appointment, conditions of service, as well as term of office bill of the year of 2023. Now this bill, it was introduced in Rajya Sabha on 10th of August of the year of 2023. And this bill, it repeals the Election Commission, Conditions of Service of Election Commissioners and Transaction of Business Act of the year 1991. Now as per Article 324 of the Indian Constitution, the Election Commission, it consists of a Chief Election Commissioner and any number of Election Commissioner as President may decide. However, this appointment process, it is determined by a parliamentary law. And in this regard, the Election Commissioner Appointments Bill is important from exams perspective. Now this particular bill, it provides for same composition of Election Commission, which is currently one Chief Election Commissioner as well as two Election Commissioners. However, this bill adds that the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners, they will be appointed by a president based on recommendation of a selection committee. Now the selection committee, it will comprise of Prime Minister as chairperson, as well as leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha as member, and a union cabinet minister who will be nominated by the Prime Minister. Further, if the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha has not been recognized, the leader of the single largest opposition party in the Lok Sabha will assume this role. Further, this bill also provides for a search committee. And this search committee, it will prepare a panel of 5 persons for consideration by selection committee. Further, this search committee, it will be headed by the Union Cabinet Secretary. Further, it will also have 2 members who cannot be below the rank of Secretary to the Government of India and having knowledge and experience in matters related to election. However, the selection committee, it may also consider candidates who have not been included in the panel prepared by this particular search committee. Additionally, this bill also determines the qualification of Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners as persons who are holding or have held the post which are equivalent to rank of Secretary to the Government of India. They will be eligible to be appointed as Chief Election Commissioner or Election Commissioners. However, such persons, they must have expertise in managing and conducting elections. Further, this bill also determines the salary and allowances that the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners are entitled to. Now, the 1991 Act, which will be repealed by this bill, it provides that the salary of election commissioner should be equal to that of a Supreme Court judge. However, this 2023 bill, it provides that the salary, allowances and the service condition of members of election commission, it will be same as that of cabinet secretary. Further, this bill also provides for term of office. Now, the 1991 Act, it mandated that the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners, they will hold office for a period of 6 years or until they reach the age of 65 years or whichever of them happens earlier. Now in case if an election commissioner is appointed as a chief election commissioner, his total tenure cannot exceed to that of 6 years. However, this bill, it retains the same provision for term of office. Further, this bill also adds that the chief election commissioner and other election commissioner, they will not be eligible for reappointment. This bill also determines the process of removal for election commissioners. As under Article 324 of the Constitution, a chief election commissioner can only be removed from office in a manner which is similar to that of a Supreme Court judge. And this is done through an order of precedent which will be based on a motion passed by both of the houses of Indian Parliament. And this motion for removal will be adopted only when the majority of total membership of each house votes for the bill, in addition to at least 2/3 support from members who are present and voting. Whereas an election commissioner, he can be removed from office based on the recommendation of chief election commissioner. And this bill, it retains the same removal procedure. Hence, this was all for today's discussion on Election Commissioner Appointments Bill of the year of 2023. Now moving on to the last article of the day, which appeared on page 4 of today's Hindu newspaper. Now this article highlights the Tamil Nadu Governor's statement on the national eligibility cum entrance test bill of the Tamil Nadu government. As this bill, it has been reserved for consideration by the President. Now this topic is important from GS Paper 2 perspective, as it deals with structure, organization and functioning of executive, and governor of a state is an integral part of executive architecture. Further, this topic is important from mains point of view as well, as in 2018 a question appeared on political tussle between Lieutenant Governor and elected government of Delhi. Also, the powers of the governor of a state is important from prelims perspective, as a question regarding appointment and reservation of certain bills, it was asked in prelims of the year of 2014. Hence, in today's discussion, we will discuss powers of the governor with respect to bills of state legislature. Now, in this regard, let us first discuss the powers of governor regarding ordinary bills which are passed by state legislature. Now, every ordinary bill which is passed by the state legislature, it is presented to the governor for purpose of his assent. Now he has 4 different alternatives. The first, that he may give assent to such a bill, and in this process the bill then becomes an act. However, the government may also withhold his assent to the bill, and this means the bill then ends and does not become an act of the government. Further, the governor may also return the bill for reconsideration by legislature. In case the bill is passed by the legislature again, with or without amendments, and is presented to the governor for his assent, the governor then must give his assent to such a bill. Hence, we can say that the governor in this process enjoys only a suspensive veto. Now further, the governor may also reserve the bill for consideration by the President of India. Now when the governor reserves the bill for consideration of the process, he will not have any further role in the enactment of the bill. Which means, if the bill is returned by the President for reconsideration of the House and is passed again, the bill will be presented again for the presidential assent only. And in case the President gives assent to the bill, it becomes an act. Hence, it means that the governor, he has no further role in this regard. Further, when the state bill, it is presented for the consideration of President, the President, he has 3 alternatives. First is that he may give assent to the bill, which means that the bill will then become an act. Further, the President may also withhold his assent, which means the bill comes to an end and it does not become an act. Whereas, the President may also return the bill for reconsideration of state legislature. And when a bill is returned, the state legislature will have to reconsider the bill within a period of 6 months. And if the bill is passed by the state legislature with or without amendment is presented to the president again, he is not bound to give his assent on such a bill. Now let us discuss the powers of governor with respect to money bills. Now every money bill which is passed by the state legislature, it is presented for the governor for purpose of his assent. And he has 3 alternatives in this regard. The first, that he has to give the assent, which means the bill then become an act. Further, he may also withhold his assent to the bill, which means the bill will then end and it will not become an act of state legislature. Whereas, the governor, he may also reserve the bill for consideration by President of India. Now the governor, he cannot return the money bill for reconsideration by state legislature. And when the governor, he reserves the bill for consideration for the president, the governor, he will not have any further role with regards to enactment of the bill. And if the president, he gives his assent to the bill, it means the bill will become an act. And this means that the assent of governor is no longer required. Now when a money bill is reserved for consideration by the president has 2 alternatives. First, that he gives his assent to the bill, which means the bill will then become an act. Whereas the president may also withhold his assent to such a bill, which means the bill will not become an act. Thus, the president, he can also not return the bill for reconsideration by the state legislature. Now this was all for today's discussion on governor and state legislature bills.